So we're discussing Kadesh. Now we'll move on to Urachat. So there's a discussion in the Gemara in Psachim. We normally know that before we eat a meal, we wash our hands, and Tila Shadayim when we have bread. So over here, Urachat makes sense, washing our hands, but then instead of having some matzah in front of us, well, we have the matzah in front of us, with yachas, we're going to be breaking it soon, but we're not eating it until later on. So what's this washing all about? We usually wash before bread. So the Gemara tells us in Psachim, in other areas, there's a concept of a davar shetivuo b'mashka. There's certain types of mashkin, the zayim mashkin, water is one of them, that it's mukshar l'makabel tuma, so therefore if you eat a wet fruit, wet vegetable, so there's a halacha, definitely bizman beis hamikdash kayam, when we were very makbid in Tumah V'Tara, one had to wash their hands, the same way they washed their hands before bread, you wash your hands before a wet fruit, a wet vegetable, and of course you make the bracha of Netilas Yadayim as well. There's a machlokas rishonim post beis hamikdash, the Rambam and the Bali Tosas, whether this halacha still applies or not. So the Rambam, and this is the Vilna Gaon Shita, that it's no different. There's no difference pre-Beis HaMikdash, post-Beis HaMikdash. Of course there's a difference, but there's no difference regarding the halacha of Netilas Yadayim. And the Vilna Gaon felt very strong. Not only you wash your hands, but you make a bracha as well. There's no. That's why it's good, because a lot of times when I wash on wet grapes or something, and sometimes I forget and I make a bracha, and I'll say Baruch Shein Kavod, but at least then I realize I have the Gra and the Rambam. There are shitas that still say to make a bracha. Safek bracha, so hakel, we don't. And the Bali Tosas says no, the halacha doesn't apply today. We don't have to be makbid in washing our hands for davar shetivuo b'mashka. How do we paskin in Shulchan Aruch? The Shulchan Aruch goes, it's a sveika dedina machlokas rishonim, and the Shulchan Aruch says the conclusion is you wash your hands without a bracha. Many are makbid on this practice of washing on wet fruit completely, but that's brought down in Shulchan Aruch that one should wash their hands without a bracha. So it makes sense then, if you open up the Haggadah seems to be following the way of the Shulchan Aruch, that why are we washing our hands now? We're about to have a dip our karpas of a vegetable into salt water. It seems to be, we don't make a bracha, and it seems to be, it's a sveika dedin, it's working out Netilas Yadayim. The same reason if I had wet potatoes, cucumbers, whatever you use for your karpas, I'd wash my hands without a bracha. It's not telling me any chiddush, it's just telling me it's pshuto. That's the way, that's the halacha. And according if you were at the Vilna Gaon Seder, I wasn't there, but he'd make a bracha, even though they don't have bracha on Urachat, but he would make a bracha on the Netilas Yadayim before he'd eat the karpa. So our minig seems to work straight with the Shulchan Aruch. It's a sveika dedina. There's a different minhagim regarding washing one's hands. In different Haggadahs, today the prevalent practice seems to be that everybody washes their hands before karpas, but some Haggadahs call it an old minig, and that used to be a prevalent minig when I was growing up, that the Baal Habayis, they bring the water to the parent, the head of the household, and they used to wash their hands. Everyone watched them wash, but everyone ate the karpas. Not just he just ate the karpas, everyone ate the karpas. So what are these different minhagim based on? Is there any basis for the minig of not washing your hands? Because the child is, why not? As we just pointed out, if it's a din in Netilas Yadayim, so that's the halacha. There's no case that people don't wash all year round, but we assume you have to wash all year round without a bracha, so then what's the rationale for washing? For those who don't wash all year round, and let's assume al pi halacha they go with the Bali Tosas, they don't have to, or according to Tosfos, why are we washing our hands here? Maybe, Zeichel Mikdash to keep it away, but why are we washing our hands? So that's what the Netziv writes. The Netziv writes, for those, according to those shitas who say there's no chiyuv to bizman hazeh to wash your hands of a davar shetivuo b'mashka, so why are we washing our hands? That's what the Netziv has a whole arichas He says we do many things on the night of Pesach, Zecher Lemikdash. We do many things, remember the good old days when we had the temple. And therefore we wash our hands, we're makbid on Tumah B'Tara, the custom of a man wearing a kittel, like the Vilna Gaon right, it's like the garment of the Kohen, the white, when you eat the karbanos. And we say, L'shana haba b'Yushalayim. There's an extra focus on Zecher Lemikdash, on how things were back in the good old days, and therefore they point out that that's the reason why. So that explains the minhag of those who, and you can keep the minhag of those who just the balabas this washes his hands, and everyone else doesn't. In fact, when I was in the hotel a couple of years ago, I'm running the communal SEDER, so we get to Urachat. So I just say, people have different customs, washing your hands or not. Whatever your custom is, continue. I'm just going to go and wash my hands. I'm running the SEDER anyway, so by all accounts I have to do it. To my shock, whether not positive or negative, I mean, it was like a big SEDER, it felt like over 100 people. Like 80 to 90 got up to wash. I was expecting like 2 or 3 to follow me. Let's put it this way, needless to say, that was the longest part of the Haggadah. It took about half an hour because they weren't prepared with the washing stations until we got that going. That was the longest Urachatz. But that's what the Nakuda is. The issue is if it's a din in the Tila Shadayim, so everyone has to wash. It's a Davar Shadibah Maska. If you're assuming like the opinions that you don't have to wash all year round, you go with the Bali Tosfos. So Manishtana Halayla Azeh. So you do things to get the kids' interest, and you're doing it as Zecher Lemikdash. If you're doing it to get the kids to ask questions, so it's enough that one person wears. That's the same discussion as well. People bring different minhagim by a kittel would be the same thing. Does all the males wear a kittel, or just the one who's running the SEDER? So again, so that depends on why you're wearing the kittel. If you're wearing the kittel to get the kids to ask questions, so it's enough that one person. If you're wearing the kittel because it's a Zecher Lemikdash, you want to Yaskir Yom HaMisa, you're taking out all the nice china and everything, so then maybe it applies to everyone. So again, so it depends, the different minhagim depend on the fundamentals, on what is the reason behind doing it. And interesting, there's Rav Kook points out, the more b'derach machshava, that why is it we do many things, working with the Netziv, we do many things Zecher Lemikdash, the night of Pesach. I mean, it's not, we like to do things Zecher Lemikdash all the time. We want to bring back the good old days. What's so special about the night of Pesach that we seem to have an overemphasis? Kind of like Rav Soloveitchik pointed out, how does the Magid begin? With Halach Ma'anya, called Difkin Yetiv Yecho. The whole question, why invite guests now? They're invited. Why is it in Aramaic? Well, we have time when we go into Magid, we'll go into it more. But why is that the way to begin the SEDER? We always into Achnasas Archim. And here obviously it's too late. Then when you're saying it in Aramaic, so it's like me inviting you in Chinese. Like, who are we kidding? If you don't understand what I'm saying, like, where's the invite? And it's a little late to start asking people. Meaning, it's not always too late. There are people who don't actually ensure, but it's when you're at home with the doors closed and no one can hear you, and you say anyone who's hungry come and eat. That seems a little insincere. So the Mepharshim point out you already did the invite. This is more, they just put it in as a formal part of the SEDER. Why? So Rav Soloveitchik points out because what's the night of Pesach? It's Chayris. It's the night of freedom. How does one show the freedom? Mashakana Eved Kana Rabo. Slave can't do anything on his own. He has to ask, how high should I jump? What could I do? You certainly can't invite guests over. One of the signs of a free person is you have the ability of Achnasas Archim, the ability, it's my home, I can do what I want and I can invite people. So B'davka we begin with a formal Achnasas Archim to show this is what you do when you're free. You help the vulnerable, you help the people who need it. So along those lines, Rav Kook says also similar, or not similar, but he takes it to a different step, that he says, because the night of Pesach, because we're free, and it's Zman Chayras, that's why we're doing Haseba. Free people have the ability to dream. When you're stuck in the mud, you're vulnerable, you're behind bars, you're in Alcatraz, wherever you may be. Even though, even I remember when I went to Alcatraz as a visitor, so I remember listening to one, they put on, they probably have iPods today, but they had these earphones, or whatever they called those things before iPods came along. So one of the guys there asked, what was the hardest part of being in Alcatraz? So you expect the torture, the way I was treated. Did you know what the hardest part was? I could see on a nice sunny day, I could see the shore of San Francisco. I could hear the kids running around playing in the water and the sand, and knowing I was stuck in this place forever, that was like the hardest thing, psychological damage. So when you're stuck and you know things can't get better, in fact it's frustrating to dream, because you don't want to dream about things you can't do. On the night of Pesach, it's all about dreaming. We're free. Everything is open. We want to do Zeichel HaMikdash. Well, hopefully it's more than dreaming, but we want to dream back to Beis HaMikdash and dream of back in the good old days when we get the Beis HaMikdash brought back and the Shalom al Yisrael, the Shalom on the world. And in fact, like there was this story of this, they say with this Almana, this poor woman in Europe who had like 10 kids, and they were not North American poor. Poor means that, that you don't have cable or you don't have this, but it means real poor people. And basically somehow she came back with an egg one day. A big treat. She came back with an egg. And the kids were all excited, well, we're going to eat an egg? She said, no, we're not eating an egg. We're going to take this egg and we're going to put it under the chicken. And then hopefully the egg, this egg will hatch and we'll have a chicken. Oh, they're so excited, we're going to eat the chicken? No, and then she goes, oh no, with the chicken with this, and one thing leads to the other. And then the kids were getting so excited, and then they dropped the egg. And and then so the bottom line is, when you have something, you have the ability to dream. When you don't even have the egg anymore, you can't dream about the chicken, you can't. So Jews have gone through terrible galus and suffering, and we don't have to look too far back in Jewish history to see it, unfortunately, today. But the night of Pesach gives us the opportunity to dream again, at least for one night. And we live in North America, we have as much freedom as we can imagine, and those living in Eretz Yisrael. But not everyone, not all of Achenu B'Yisrael live in the same. You live out in the Middle East, other countries, you don't have that same type of. Venezuela, we were just reading about what was going on there. So tonight at Pesach, we join in together, and whether it's the inviting of the guests, but we have the ability to dream, and that's the Zeichel, that's what we do on the night of Pesach, and that's what the Netziv is saying. Even according to the Bali Tosfos, who would say, Bizman Hazeh, you don't have to wash, but why do we do Orchat the night of Pesach? We do a night of Pesach, it is a night of freedom, and when a person's free, they have the ability to dream, and to think of all the good things, that could happen to us. Because when you're stuck in the mud, in fact, it's a negative. You get more frustrated. So now, at least the night of Pesach, and hopefully throughout the year, but the night of Pesach, we get to live life to its fullest, and and go from Avdus to Cheres. Or actually, we'll discuss Urachatz. That is, after we make Kiddush, we wash our hands without a bracha, the Haggadah says. Why are we washing our hands without a bracha? So there was a general discussion in the Gemara regarding Bizman Beis HaMikdash Kayam. When we had the temple, they used to have ritual washings for different Tuma, Vitara. So they used to wash their hands, or they had anything. Water is one of the Zayin Mashkin that are Hukshur or Makabel Tuma. So if you have something wet, you wash your hands. So Bisman HaGemara, everyone seemed to agree to that. The issue of Bisman HaZeh, when we no longer are makbid in Yonim Tuma Vitara, so do we still have to wash over wet fruit, wet vegetables? So the Shulchan Aruch seems to go with the Sveika Dedina. Since it's a Machlokas Rishonim, Bizman Hazeh, on whether one has to wash the hands and make a bracha over wet vegetables, just like we do over bread. So since we're not sure, so like we do in all sveikas, we wash our hands without a bracha. Safek brachos lahakel. So that's the practice, and that would, according to some Mefarshim, that's how you do the Haggadah tonight. You're washing your hands. It's no different than all year round. You wash your hands without a bracha because it's a sveika dedina. And the Vilna Gaon Shita is also you do the same as all year round. But all year round, he says it's not a suffix. All year round, there's a chiyuv to wash your hands with a bracha. So the Gra all year round, when he washed his hands before wet grapes, wet fruit, wet vegetables, he made a bracha. So too at the night of the Seder, he'd also, urachatz would include a bracha. So according to the first way we learned to the second way, this isn't a din. There's nothing special about Leil Pesach. This is true all year round. So, however, the Netziv writes and others that perhaps there's something special going on tonight. That even though normally, let's say, according to those opinions who say you don't have to wash all year round, so we have three sheets. You don't have to wash at all. You wash with your bracha, or you wash without a bracha. So, according to those opinions who say you don't wash all year round, so why am I washing my hands tonight? So the Netziv says that we do many things today, Zeichel HaMikdash. We do many things to bring back the good old days. We are a Kittel tonight. We say Loshana Haba B'Yerushalayim. So therefore, this is one of the things we do to remember back in the good old days. So, if that's the case, so he says they're only washing because it's a Zeichel HaMikdash. We want to go back. We hope Mehira Yivana Beis HaMikdash. We want to go back to the ritual washing. So according to the Netziv, that's why one washes tonight. So this would explain another minhag. There are different minhagim brought down in different Haggadahs, and I'd say the more popular minhag today, when I was growing up, or I remember, the minhag used to be that the head of the household used to wash their hands, and everyone washed them, and that was it. Today the minhag seems to be that most people wash. In fact, when I was running a Seder for Pesach, or a communal Seder, one of the hotels, so I made an announcement before Urachat, the different customs, continue your customs, and then basically 100 people got up to wash, and it took about, Karpas was the longest, Urachat was the longest part of the Seder, it took like a half an hour. But being that, what is the issue at hand? What is the issue at hand on whether everyone should wash, or just one person? So it depends on this issue. If we learn like the Shulchan Aruch or the Gra, that why we washing Leil Pesach, it's the same din as all year round. So the same, you do whatever you do all year round. You wash your hands without a bracha, or you wash your hands with a bracha, or you don't wash your hands at all. So according to those opinions who say you don't wash your hands at all, so why are we doing it? Like the Netziv writes, Zeichel HaMikdash. So this would explain the minhag. If you assume it's a din of all year round, then everyone has to wash their hands. If it's a din of Zeichel HaMikdash, so then it's enough to only doing things differently, it's enough to get them to ask the questions. And that's explained, the different minhagim in terms of washing their hands or not. And as Rav Kook explained, and Rav Soloveitchik is, and that's why the night of Pesach is the night we have to dream. We dream that for better days the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt, we'll be living in peace, and only a free person can do that, and that's why we do the things the night of Pesach, that we dream, we look forward to the freedom. The Haggadah continues with Karpas, and we make a bracha borei pri hadama. In fact, what is the criteria for Karpas? Karpas basically is you make a borei pri hadama. We know we dip the Karpas in the salt. The salt, as they say, to zecher we do it the salt water represents the tears, etc. But what constitutes karpas? So karpas, anything you make a boer pri adama on. So different people have different customs. Green, they use cumbers, parsley, potatoes, but in theory, one could use bananas, tomatoes, anything you want. As long as you use a boer pri adama, it's okay. In fact, it's a interesting machlokes between the Chai Adam and the Shulchan Aruch Harav, that seems to be in Chabad, on whether one could use a raw onion for karpas, because the halacha is in general that when you different vegetables, if it's normally eaten raw, like tomatoes, you make a boer pri adama. If it's usually in cooked, so then if you ate it raw, you have to make a shahakal. So the issue is regarding raw onions. Onions people eat raw, let's say in a salad, but they don't eat it alone. So the Chayad is that since one would not eat a raw onion alone, they only eat it together with the salad, so therefore the bracha would be, if you eat it alone, would be a shahakal. And hence it would not be good for karpas. The Shulchan Aruch Harav writes that the bracha on raw onions is a boer pri adama, even though people don't eat it alone, but since they eat it raw, so they have, even if you're eating it alone, you make a boer pri adama. And that, in different places, that seems to be the minhag of Chabad. That Chabad use a raw onion like the Shulchan Aruch Harav. And in fact, today with modern technology, but greenhouse, hydroponic vegetables, that's a big shaila in the poskim. What bracha do you make on hydroponic vegetables? And that would be very relevant to the question of karpas, because you need something which is a boer pri hadama in order to you need something which is a boer pri hadama in order to use it for boer. You need something which is boer pri hadama in order to use it for the karpas. And in fact, some point out the dipping is zecher to. It's a reminder of a mechiras Yosef, that the brothers dipped the coat, the ksonis pasim, in blood, and they brought it back to their father. And so according to that explanation, what's it doing at the beginning of the SEDER? So it's doing it at the beginning of the SEDER because we know they're always in life, there always have been, always will be. Halacha v'yadua she'esav sonei Yaakov. It's well known that there are always anti-Semites around, some in greater, sometimes the governments, other times it's individuals, but we're always prepared. B'chol davadar, you have to be ready. So we know the Egyptians who enslaved us, and that's why we're talking about the Exodus from Egypt tonight. They got their own. They were destroyed during the Makkos, during Makkos B'choros, Kriyas Yamsuf. But ultimately, and God will take care of them. But there's a tendency as well that we forget to take, our own achrayus on different things. It's one thing, it's not a matter of blaming them, is they deserve it and they got punished. However, what the Chazal are telling us, our rabbis are teaching us here, by putting Mechiras Yosef in the beginning of the Haggadah, is to telling me that we have to have a turning inward. That it's true, whatever happened to Egyptians, and they got but it started off by the jealousy among the brothers, the sinas chinam, and that led us to Golus Mitzrayim. So we can't forget that even though, as we always, as we have plenty of anti-Semites to blame and punish, but ultimately, as well, there has to be a turning inward. One has to take responsibility as well for their own actions. We can't control the external anti-Semitism, but we can control our Ahavas Yisrael, the way we treat individuals, and that's something to keep in mind as we begin the Leil Seder, that if the sinas chinam brought down, destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, so the way to bring it back is through Ahavas Chinam. Karpas. We make a boer pri hadama, dip it in the salt water. And most Haggadah is right. You should eat less than a kazayas. You should eat less than a olive size. The question is, what is that based on? Why should I eat less than a kazayas of karpas? In fact, usually we assume ein achila pachas mikazayas. Usually an achila is defined as a kazayas. That's why it's a raya. It seems to be from the Gemara. It's not really a din in achila. We do karpas to get the kids to ask questions. Or be the Rambam shita seems to be you eat a kazayas. It's a din of achila. But the general accepted minhag is not to. Why not? What is it based on? So we know later on in the Haggadah, when we get to the Shulchan Aruch, or before the Shulchan Aruch, we make the brachas on washing our hands, on hamotzi. So we know at the end of the Magid part is Pesach, Matzah, Umarar. So we do Rachsa, Motzi, Matzah, Marar, Asher Kiddush Shalav, Mitzosa, Bitzvenu, Alachilas, Marar. We eat the marar, but there's no borei pri hadama. So how come there is no borei pri hadama on marar? So, because again, the assumption being that it's an appetizer, and if it's an appetizer, you should be mechayev in making a bracha. So. And it's assuming appetizers make brachas. So how come there's no bracha? So different Rishonim give different answers. Tosas one day writes that because normally eating horseradish wouldn't be considered part of the meal, and you would make a bracha, adama. But since over here the Torah tells us, Hamatzos umaros yochluhu, the Torah defines the Seder. I'll tell you what you have to eat. I'll tell you what the Suda means. And since the Torah says, even though Bizman Hazeh Mara is Rabbanan, but since the Torah defines Hamatzos Umarim Yochuhu, so Mara is considered part of the Suda, hence there's no need for a bracha. That's how some Rishonim were. And others point out that that you made hamotzi, so therefore there's no need to make a bracha. And others point out, no, if appetizers you do, so how come we don't? Because that's what we made the borei pri hadama on the karpas. When you make the borei pri hadama on the karpas, you should have in mind that it goes on the marar. And that's why, according to those opinions, and the way we assume, is one should have less than a kazayas, because if you have more than a kazayas, then you'll be obligated in a borei nefashos, and then you'll have to make a new bracha, and it's a suffix whether it's a doubt whether you need a bracha on it's a sveika dedina whether it requires a borei pri hadama. So we want to rely on the borei pri hadama of the karpas. Push comes to shove, we probably would. There'll be a discussion whether you didn't have in mind whether you need another borei pri hadama or not. But that's why we have in mind, and therefore we eat less than a kazayas. So that's the issue in terms of how much one has to eat. But as you point out, everyone agrees you need a borei pri hadama. There has to be some vegetable where it requires hadama. We discussed last week or yesterday the dispute between the Shulchan Aruch Harav and the Chayei whether eating raw onions what bracha. According to the Chayei, it would be a shahako because you only eat them raw together with the salad, but you wouldn't eat them raw alone. According to the Shulchan Aruch, eating them raw together with the salad is enough, even if you ate them raw, and therefore that seems to diminish among some Chabad anyway. And then we move on after karpas to yachat, the breaking of the challah, and that's why we have lechamoni, that the Gemara says lechamoni, and as we know it's not defined in terms of price, because Shemura Matzah lechamoni the night of Pesach costs $25 a box. So it means that it says water and flour. We can't use egg matzah. And then at lechem she'onim l'dvarim harbe that we say this is the matzah when we talk about the seder. It's a discussion. You have to actually have it, like, if you, let's say you don't have the matzah in front of you, so when you say matzah zu, but that's a Minchas Chinuch discusses a different topic. So you break the challah, you break the matzah, then it's a whole discussion among the Rishonim, Achronim. How many did you have? 2 or you have 3, and then you only have 1.5. You don't have lechem mishnah. So perhaps you need lechem. That's what we assume, 3 lechem mishnah, we have lechem oni. But that by itself is a question, do we need lechem mishnah on Yontif? So that's actually, it could depend on an interesting machlokas. We have medrashim chalukim on whether the man fell on Yontif or not. Everyone agrees the man did not fall on Shabbos. But there's a machlokas in the medrashim on whether it fell on Yontif. Like, what's the issue? What's the pshat in the machlokas? Like, why would you say, why yes, why not? So the question is, what's the problem with the man falling on Shabbos? Why didn't the man fall on Shabbos? The man didn't fall on Shabbos. What malacha couldn't they do? So, according to some, it was the malacha of hotzah. You're not allowed to carry. So therefore, you're concerned you're going to carry the food. It would be hachnasa hotzah. And the other opinion, the concern is that it was far away, and according to the opinion that tchumim is min haTorah, you're going out of the boundaries. So therefore, depending on, if you assume it's a din of hotzah, so you're allowed to carry on Yontif ochel nefesh, so it wouldn't be a problem. But according to the tchum, it should make a difference whether it was Yontif, and therefore, you say the no man. According to the first, if the issue is hotzah, so then yes man. And in fact, it seems to tie into another issue. Also, there's different midrashim about where the man fell. So the Mefarshim point out that for the tzaddikim, or the midrashim say, or Mefarshim, that for the tzaddikim, the man fell right on the doorstep. Well, according to if you're a Russia or an average person, you had to go out into the field. So it would come out if you take this explanation to a logical extreme. So if you're a tzaddik, you didn't have to, and if you assume whether it's techum or hotzah, you didn't have to worry, and therefore, if you're a tzaddik, so to speak, you wouldn't need. You'd have the man can fall on Yontif, but you could have the man falling. But if you were a Russia, so then the man didn't fall because it'd be far away. So it depends. So perhaps whether you need lechem mishnah on Yontif would depend if you're a tzaddik or a Russia. That's just. And a friend of mine said over, he saw it in one of the Sfarim. I'm not sure how seriously the Sfarim was saying that. But either way, that is a fundamental machlokas regarding lechem mishnah, and whether yisur tchum, yisur otzah, whether if you take it, for the tzaddikim or not.